I'm gonna try something new and just kind of talk through what I'm doing. So just did this image transfer. I'm gonna try just adding in a little bit of these details that are sort of just a little bit faded. I'm just gonna try just drawing them in. Okay. So that way I have them. And I may not end that doesn't look as good as that, so I may not end up adding that in. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's see, that's right there. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to tackle some of these things, so we'll just have to see. Like this barrette in the hair and just the hair color being dark. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet, so we will find out. But let's just go for it. Let's see what happens. I think I'm going to start. Usually I start on the outside, and I don't think that's the best way to do it. I think I'm going to start towards the inside and work my way out and see what happens. So I'll do my best to talk my way through this, and that way you can maybe get a couple tips. Not that I'm any sort of expert with this, because I am definitely not. But I'm still learning, so we'll just kind of see what we get here, and we'll learn together. This has been my kind of go-to knife as of late. It's this Fisker's, this hobby knife, number 11 blades, and I got a bunch of these Nick Pro hobby blades, 120 pack. It was pretty cheap on Amazon. They work well. I don't know anything about them, but they work really well. So, and actually, I think I'll get a brand new one. This knife is actually a scalpel. It's a surgical blade. I don't know if I can get my camera to focus in on that, but it says BP, made in the USA, and then down here it says number 11. Okay, and I had this. I was using this one for a little while, but I feel like the blade is further away. That's one thing too when you're carving, or at least for me, the closer I am down here to the blade when I'm working, the more control I have. And this one, you're a little bit further away, so I didn't feel like I had quite as much control with that. So I don't really use this as much. I'll use it for trimming, but this one is more for all the rest of everything. Then I also use gouges. So this one is specifically for lino cut, and my grandpa was a carver, so I got a bunch of knives from him, but he had these super old speedball lino cut blades in there, and that's what this is. This is a number 1 blade, so it's really small for really small details. But I've been using his wood carving tools, which are awesome, and you can see he did a little whittling there. But this is a U-shaped gouge, and then I just have tons and tons of these gouges, all different sizes, chisels, all sorts of things. So that's kind of what got me started into printmaking in the last year or so. It's just that I have all these tools and I wanted to do something with them, and I started out with actually a woodblock print. I like printmaking, and I had all these wood carving tools, so I figured, okay, well, I'll do a wood block because I've never done it and see what happens. And then now I'm doing stamp carving, and I've been really enjoying it. So anyway, it is what it is. So, but this was not his. This is a new knife that I bought myself, but I really like it. It's really soft handle. It feels really solid. So anyway, I think I'm going to start from the center and work my way out, and we'll see what we get. So I'm going to start here with the eyes. Let me get a new blade too. Not that that blade is bad, but with this tiny details, I just think that it's good to start off fresh. Really nice, super sharp blade. When you're working with softer materials, at least what I've read and what I've heard is that, and what I think it's true too, is that softer materials dull your blades faster than hard materials do. So there we go. All right, here we go. Let's see what we got. See what I can do. I'm gonna start out at in the center and just kind of work my way around. And what I do is I always keep my blade kind of at an angle. Maybe zoom this out a little bit so you can see here. Keep my blade at an angle, and I try and keep my hand still and just move the block. So I'm just gonna kind of just barely put this in. And that's the thing with these really small little details. You do not have to barely even put your blade into it. They're so small that you can just kind of sit it right there on the surface and turn it around and let it do the work for you. Okay, so I'm gonna try it on this one here. See what we get. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll notice how much slower I go than the videos. I always speed those up too, just so it's not super boring to watch. Okay. We'll see how this turns out. I did another one of these for another coworker who's a health teacher, and it's already posted on my channel, so you can check that one out too. But that one had even teeny tinier text, but it was on a different kind of block. It was on a speedball block, the Speedy Carve. This one, I don't even know the name of this, but we'll find out if I like it as much. I may end up redoing this one if I don't like this one as much, but so far so good. Get a little bit closer here. And again, I try and keep my hand as steady as I can and just turn the block. So really, the cutting is happening as I move the block with my left hand, and I just kind of keep my right hand steady. There we go. And you can give a little bit of movement here with your hand too, that's fine. Sometimes I forget too where I'm at, and I just kind of stretch the block a little bit, see. If you don't go all the way to the corners, sometimes the pieces won't release either, so. But when you have your blade at an angle like this, it cuts in like a gouge would, but you get a lot higher precision. So you can, just having a single blade, you can do a lot smaller details than you could otherwise do. Let me try drawing in here a little bit. See what we get. Just gonna do this part right here, right above the glasses. And you can see I am not putting that blade way in there. Because the other thing that can happen too that I've noticed, and like I said, I'm no expert, but sometimes if you put the blade in too far, what you'll end up doing is cutting on this side of the line, which could eventually damage that part of the stamp. If you stamp it so many times that that part of the stamp over there could degrade and actually fall off eventually, I would assume. So kind of have to be careful. I'm just going to take this right down there. Now, more experienced people would probably be able to carve this much, much quicker than I am. But they probably also wouldn't be speaking English. So I guess you take what you can get. I'm gonna leave these wrinkles off the forehead. I don't want to put them on there. Bitmojis are supposed to look youthful. Sorry if you can hear my dryer in the background and the washing machine. At least the furnace isn't going. It's been unseasonably warm today, which is wild. It's been like 60 degrees in the Kansas City area, and normally it's like crazy cold, so we had the heat off today, just letting the house kind of air out a little bit, which has been nice. All right, I'm gonna do this bottom side here underneath her eyes, but still inside the glasses, so see what we get. honestly, I find that I get just much more accurate carving too if I move the block instead of my hand. For certain things, you kind of have to move your hand a little bit, but just moving the block and just trying to make that the way that you carve, it's going to feel a little bit weird at first, but it makes more sense in the long run. I think you just get a lot more accurate carvings, I guess. Man, I'll be surprised if I can keep that little line right there. That'll be nuts. Doing these little tiny details is weird. And I don't know if anybody's actually going to take the time and watch this, but whatever, I really don't care. I'm not really doing this for anybody else but myself. The whole reason I started doing these stamp carving thing, I guess, I don't even know. I started an Etsy shop and I did all this other stuff, and I'm an art teacher, and specifically a middle school art teacher, and it's really difficult, at least I find, being an art teacher and finding time to do your own work. So I think it's really super important too, though, that you do actually do that. And I've always felt that that's important, but this is like my 9th year teaching, and this is the most work I've done in 1 year. I think it's also too that I'm finally in the groove to where I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing teaching, sort of. And it's not as stressful as it was in the beginning. So that helps. So I feel like more comfortable doing, like having time and spending time on my own work. Let's see, yeah, okay. Come on. But I think it's really valuable to actually be producing your own work if you are a teacher, an art teacher. We'll see how that turns out. I don't know. So, anyway, I wanted to do something. I have a friend who has an Etsy shop, and she's like, "Man, you gotta get on it, see what you can do." And she's like, "You should make stamps, because I saw you." I was actually doing a stamp at the beginning of the year, and she's like, "I saw you working on that stamp, and it's just a stamp of my name, so I could stamp hall passes if a kid ever needs to leave my room." She's like, "You should do stamps." And I was like, yeah, that's not a bad idea. I actually kind of like doing that. So I took her advice, and I've been just kind of going crazy with it. And I feel like I've gotten quite a bit better since I started, which is really cool, and it hasn't taken terribly long. So that's been cool. But I've been doing lots of commissions, so I don't have a whole lot in my Etsy shop. I got a lot of ideas of things that I'm gonna be doing, but once I did a couple commissions for some people, I've been really busy just doing those, which those are fun too. So, I mean, I'm not upset about that. They're fun. And if nothing else, it's really good practice for me. Come on. Sometimes I have a hard time getting it lined up to actually cut right. Okay, so this needs to come down like that. I don't know how this is going to turn out. We're going to see. It's so small. Whew. Okay. The reason I'm starting in the middle, I just think things kind of keep their structural integrity a little bit better if you start in the middle. And I have this bad habit. I don't know if it's really a bad habit, but usually I've had this habit of just kind of starting at the outside and working my way inward. But I feel like things usually work better if you start from the inside and work your way out. Like, if you've ever carved a pumpkin or something like that, if you start on the outside and work your way in, when you're carving, things like start moving around a lot, and then a lot of times they'll break. So, but if you start on the inside and you work your way out, you've got a lot more surface area, and things tend to stay together a little bit better. At least that's the idea. I don't know. So like what I'm doing right now, you can see more of my blades in there right now. I'm going in further because I'm gonna have to meet there at the middle. So it can be pretty shallow here because there's not much space for my blade to go. But once I get down further, I kind of go in deeper to the plate like that. Okay, and I've already cut this side, so I'm going to cut this side here. And we'll see if I do a good job cutting it, if it comes out easily. See what happens. Boom. There we go. We'll see how this turns out too. I am really not sure. I don't know. I just don't know. That's the thing. Sometimes you don't know until you actually print it to see how it's gonna look, but we will see. We'll see. Okay. I'm just gonna cut out these hearts. There's some crazy stamp makers on Instagram, a lot of them being Japanese, and that's kind of the same style. They just use a single blade like this, and I was kind of watching their videos to see how they did it, and that's how I came to this method, I guess you could call it. I don't know if there's a specific name for anything or what, but I will say this block kind of stretches a little bit. I mean, I don't dislike it. I do like it, but does kind of stretch a little, but so does the speedball block, so I'm just gonna cut this piece here. You want to make sure that you don't cut too deep to where you cut through that piece that you just did. So what I mean by that is if I cut too deep, my knife would go underneath that. And that's a bad thing. You don't want that to happen. Maybe I'll do like this too, because in the picture it's faded down, so I may just kind of make my own line there. There we go. Try and keep it in the frame. Hard to see, man. It's like blends in. Okay. I didn't cut that deep enough. Just go across there. There we go. There we go. Okay. keep going here. I'm gonna go right along the top edge of this B and make sure I don't cut too deep, hopefully. There we go. And this is a slow moving process, but that's all right. It's worth it. It's fun. I don't know if it's just me too, but I've always noticed that when I'm really concentrating, especially when I'm making artwork, it's probably just me, maybe I'm the only weird one, but like I hold my breath when I'm doing like really detailed stuff. And it's like it's a weird habit. Maybe other people do that too, I don't know. Keep that line clean. Come on. There we go. But really all I'm doing is I'm just experimenting every time because I really don't have any clue as to what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going for it. So when I started out, I didn't use an X-Acto knife. I used just gouges because that's what I had. I mean, I did have an X-Acto knife. I just didn't really think about using it in this way. I used it a little bit here and there. And actually, that first, I shouldn't say that, that first name stamp that I was talking about earlier that I did for myself where I would just be signing kids hall passes, that I actually did do with an X-Acto knife. But all the others, that like when I was first starting out, I just used gouges, and that's what I think most people really do, especially when printmaking. But this is just such a different process, and I really like doing it this way. So I'm gonna do it this way for a little while. The limitations, though, I will say with this, it's much easier to do more artistic style lines with a gouge, like I did this mushroom stamp. Those type of I don't know, value lines, things like that. They go a lot quicker with a gouge. So some things, I don't know, it just depends on the tool. You find what you like and you find what works well, and you know, use a different tool for each thing depending on how it works best for you. There we go. Just gonna go right here. Come on. And I might want to even use it just to give a little bit of tonal differences between like the eye and the pupil. Otherwise that whole thing is going to be black, which isn't terrible, but I don't know. I don't know how much I really like that. So we'll see how it looks when I'm done, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. We will find out. I should have carved the inside of this too before I went around the outside. That's a mistake. We'll see what happens though. Maybe it'll be alright. But like I said, I'm still learning. And I am by no means any expert, but I've just picked up on a few things here and there that work better. There we go, that's alright. Like I said, I don't know how I'm going to do these tonal differences. The other gal that had me do it, her Bitmoji had blonde hair, so that was easier because everything was just outlined. I could cut it out, but this is brown hair and there's little differences in here, so I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that, if I even am going to do anything. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. The problem is these things are so small. It's just like, it's gonna be really hard to get everything that you want. All those little tiny details. Hopefully it'll translate enough to where it looks okay, but man, it's just, you just can't get everything when it's that small. Or at least I can't. Somebody else probably could, but at least not at this point. So we'll see how it goes, but I mean, so far so good. I'm not, man, my light is kind of messing with me. Go over here to this side. Sorry about the shakiness. There we go. Where is it? Right here. And when I do these really small things, now I understand. Like my grandpa, he had these crazy like magnifying glasses type deal that he had some that would clip onto his glasses, and then he had one that was just like its own standalone like headgear piece thing. And I was like, man, why do you need that? But now I get it. Like these, when you're doing really small details, that would make it so much easier. I do have one somewhere of his. I should dig that out and maybe use that and see if that helps, but kind of lost this one a little bit, so I'm gonna draw that back in. There we go. black Ticonderogas too. Those are the best. Just FYI. That's what I like. I like the yellow ones too, don't get me wrong, those are good. So let's do this. I like the black ones better though. Come on. There we go. Sometimes I had to think too, okay, am I going to be cutting in this way? Nope, that's not right. And I just really have to think about, like, you want everything to come to a peak this way. So like all the high edges, you want to come up to a peak like that. You don't ever want them to be going that way because they'll collapse over, things like that. So you always want everything to kind of come to a peak like that and have a good area where ink can rest right there, okay, on that release. Make sure I don't cut off any of the words. There we go. I like it too when it all comes off in like one piece like that. That's cool. Go back here. I don't think I went around the edge of the... Yeah, I didn't go around the edge of that one. Sorry if this is like super boring. You can always fast forward through this. You don't have to listen to me rambling on. I'm gonna go to the edge of this C. Instead of trying to sneak my way through there. There we go. Do like that. Okay, so I'm gonna just pick this back up because I ran out of space last time. So, and it was getting kind of long, so I'm just gonna get back into this here and see what happens. So, I noticed a couple things from my first session that I need to kind of go back and fix a little bit. Nothing major, but just kind of little tiny, small things, so. Right here. I don't know, I might have up even more. I don't know. We'll see. Got a little part of the nose here too that needs to come out. Some random little flakes of things that need to come out, I guess. So, I think what I'm gonna do too is I'm gonna just put some lines in the hair where, like this is, instead of being darker, they're gonna be just a little bit lighter and keep the hair dark. And we'll see how that turns out looking. I don't know. Go. It's best if you can to work from the inside out. I think things just structurally stay a little bit stronger. Make sure I don't cut off that T. There we go. I think one thing that's really important too is just taking your time and thinking as you're going through this. What am I doing? How is this gonna cut? At least for me, if I'm not doing that, I get kind of careless and it gets kind of sloppy. So that's really important for me. I just gotta kind of keep going through those things in my head so I know what I'm doing. Okay, let's see here. And you really don't want to cut too deep. So adjusting how deep my knife is, like on this edge here, I didn't have the tip in as far as I did out here because I had more space to kind of spread out a little bit. There we go. All right. I don't know if I want to get too detailed with like this little barrette and everything. I don't know. Probably not really gonna do anything with the clothes either. I might just leave those since it's so small, and see how it looks, and then I can always adjust it afterwards if I think it needs it. So I'm just gonna go through here on the border, and I'm going to cut this stuff out. Okay, like that. I'm just going to cut these little pieces out in here. So I'm going to do that along all of these shapes that I've already done. And you can see my knife's going in deeper when it's got further distance to travel. And then I don't have to cut as deep when it's a shorter distance to travel. Like that. Okay. And again, you want to keep that angle on your blade. So instead of going straight up and down, like something like a 45 or even a more mellow, maybe a more mellow than a 45, I don't know. I just kind of go with what feels right and see what happens. Another way that you can do this too, instead of doing it like if that section feels like it's too big, one thing that you can do is you can break it down into smaller pieces. So like what you could do is something like this, where you trim out that edge, okay, and then you take it off in pieces like that. So there's one small piece, and then I can come in here and do like this. And there's another small piece. So you could do it in smaller pieces, that's fine if you don't want to do big chunks. I just think it goes a little bit quicker and it looks a little bit neater when you're done carving if you do big chunks, but it is a little bit different because a lot of times it won't release because you don't get the angles quite right, or it's not cut quite deep enough or something like that. can kind of see how my knife is adjusting to the depth in those different spots, depending on how deep I need to cut. Okay. There we go. All right. Now on to the lettering. So let's see what we do. You can start anywhere, and again, I still think it's best to start inside the letters. So like anything that has a hole like these, do those first. And you can do it letter by letter, or you can do all the insides first. There's really not a right or wrong way. I just think that things stay a little bit more structurally, they keep a little bit more structural integrity if you do the inside before the outside edge. And these, since they're so small, you really don't need to go deep at all. You just barely need the tip of your blade to just go right underneath the surface. When comparing this to the Speedball, I don't know, like the Speedy Carve, I'm not sure which I like better so far. This is like the first detailed stamp that I've done with this, so it's hard to say right now. I think I need to use this a little bit longer to really be able to say, but I do like it so far. Out of all the Chinese blocks, I think, or Chinese, Japanese, I don't know, I haven't tried any Japanese blocks, but out of all the Chinese blocks, this one has been my favorite. Part of the reason this has to be so small too is because they want it to be able to fit on a normal size stamp pad. So we'll see how they turn out. I was really, look at that. Look at how tiny that is. It's itty bitty. It was really, when I designed this one, I was thinking more along the lines of keeping the letters larger, because last time they were so small with the last one that I did that it was just crazy. So I wanted to keep the letters a little bit bigger, but that ended up making that Bitmoji a little bit smaller, and this Bitmoji compared to the last one had some more details to it, so that made that a little bit more challenging. So I guess you change one thing and make something else harder, but whatever. Okay, let's see here. There we go. Okay, see what we get. There we go. All right. Excuse me. So now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the smaller stuff first to get the hard stuff out of the way, and then I'll save this till the end, since that'll be easier. Yeah, that's my plan. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay. And some people do this in different ways. I like to go all the way around each piece. Some people like to do, for instance, they like to do everything on the left side, and then they'll turn it and they'll do everything on, they'll just keep everything on the left side. So they'll do all the letters in, for instance, this word keep, and they'll do all the left, and then they'll do the left when it's facing this way, the left facing that way, okay? Or if you're left-handed, they would do the right. It just depends. So I like going around each specific one. You end up turning the block a lot more, but for me, it helps me keep track of where I'm at better. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to go around all these letters and keep, and then I'll cut it out. And what I'm trying to do is just make sure that that edge of my blade is just staying right along the edge of the letters, without going and cutting off any of that printed ink. That's the goal anyway. And again, since these letters are so small, you don't really need to go deep. Just really the edge of your blade, just as long as it goes right underneath the surface, that's all you need. That goes right up there to that cut line, so I don't need to do anything with that. I find that doing these curves of letters for me is kind of hard, just to keep them looking good without getting like straight angles in them is hard for me to do. Okay, so let's see if this thing will release here. And again, you don't want your blade to go in too deep to where you're cutting underneath these letters. So I'm just trying to pay attention to how deep this is going. let's see if this comes off as one piece or not. Probably not, because I'm not that good. I've seen a lot of people that can do that. I am not one of those people. Also too, when you're pulling this off, instead of pulling towards the letters like I just did, it's better if you pull away. This way, like that. Okay. Here's one edge. There we go. Just cut that. Yeah, okay. Gonna have to help this out a little bit. There we go. There we go. I don't know if you saw what I did, but I cut that piece there and then I just did a little cut right there so these pieces would release. Hopefully. Come on. There we go. Okay. Cut that. There we go. There we go. All right. And I don't know if you can see that I accidentally cut a little bit underneath that P. See how that lifts up just a little bit? That's not great, but it is what it is. Okay, pull these out. These come out? Nope. Come on. There we go. Okay. There's one word. And you can see how small that is. That sucks. Okay. Hopefully it'll come out okay. We'll see. I think there's a little bit right in here that needs to still release. There. Release. Come on. There. I think I got it. Yeah, okay. just gonna go ahead and cut this out. Like that. And I'll go ahead and cut this out. As well. There we go. Okay. Let's see here what we get. There we go. All right. Come on. There we go. Those little parts are hard. Come on. There we go. Some people, they can just adjust their knife angle just by turning their knife, or they can do it perfectly so they don't have to move their block as much. I'm not one of those people, at least not yet. Maybe someday, if I keep up doing this. I like doing it, so hopefully I keep up doing it. I don't think there's a lot of guys that do this though. I don't know. It seems like every person that I ever see doing this is a woman, which I don't really care. I think it's fun, but I'd like to know if there's any dudes out here that do this. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get a little border around the word. There we go. So there's 2 small words done.
get around this and symbol. Try not to cut too deep right in here, but we still need it to release, so hopefully we can get that. Okay. Alright, so let's see what we get. Maybe I'll get lucky. I am pretty impressed with this block. I like this block. I know I've said that already, but the more I cut with it, the more I like it. There we go. Almost. And come on. There we go. Okay, come on. Let's see if I can get that up. There we go. Sometimes I don't cut it quite deep enough, like you can see right there. It kind of tore, but it's down there in that valley, so it doesn't really matter that much. It just doesn't look as nice, that's all. But as far as function goes, it still works perfectly fine. There we go. Sorry, I've got a little runny nose. I'm guessing it's from my kids. Okay, let's see here. I'll do this one and then I'll get over here. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Okay. And release. There we go. Okay. Come over here. And so my blade's going to be deeper here, and I'm going to pull it kind of out of the block as I come down, because I don't want to cut underneath that C. Or at least I'm going to try not to. There we go. Little piece still stuck in there. There we go. Come on. I didn't release that one good. There we go. Kind of nice way to end the day. Come down and get some carving done. You feel like one thing that I felt good about with doing all this, even though I'm still just learning, I just feel like I'm really productive, like I'm getting stuff done, even though it's just like these tiny little stamps. At least I'm working, like doing something on my own terms. And that's, I think, the hardest thing when you're an art teacher. You're working so hard to get kids motivated to work. A lot of times you forget about yourself and keeping yourself motivated to work, so I think that's really important. There we go. That came out nicely. Good. We're getting there. Won't be too much longer now. I think the bigger letters will go a little bit quicker. Cut a little bit of that in off. Let's see. There we go.
That's all I got.
Alright, let's see here. Left to right, I guess. Okay. Again, I apologize if this is really boring, but whatever. Maybe this will help somebody out that's wanting to do the same thing, and that's really the only reason I'm doing this. I don't even know if anybody will ever watch these. That's okay. I'm probably just sitting here in my basement talking to myself. Whatever. Parched. There we go. Okay. Sorry if I keep going out of the frame too. I know that's not ideal. And I'm sorry that I'm not really talking all that much. I don't know what to say really. And it's hard to talk to when you're concentrating. It's like brain studies, right brain, left brain, they're kind of, at least from the way I understand it, the speech part of your brain and the part of your brain that's concentrating for creativity are kind of competing. And that's why when you're really concentrating, it's hard to kind of talk through what you're doing, I guess. I also read too, that's why when you're really concentrating in the car trying to drive somewhere, you like turn the music down. Like if it's the first time you've been somewhere and you don't know where you're going, and I'm sure that different people, it affects differently, but Mm. Okay, one more word, and then I gotta cut out all the extra stuff too. Yeah, I'll start over here. Well, there we go. See how this turns out. Okay, where to start? There we go. All right. Hot water heater finally turned off. Okay, let's see here. I find that these things release a lot better if you just keep the blade in. I mean, not always, but a lot of times you can get them out in one piece a lot easier if you just keep the blade in there. I don't know. I guess it just kind of probably keeps that angle better. There we go. Here's another one. Sorry, I know I keep going out of the frame. Gotta do better with that. Yep. Come on now. Well, I didn't do that one real well. Oh well. It's alright. Chop that off. There we go. Get it out of the way. Take this all the way around. Why not? See if this will release. Look at that. I actually did. That did a good job. Okay, let's see here. Might need to cut off some of this. So we don't get printing where it shouldn't be printing. Maybe a little bit in here. Okay. Chop that off. Let's go ahead and do this. good. Just trying to get all this excess off the edges, and then we'll see how it prints. See if I need to change anything or not. I'm guessing I might need to, there's just this part around the mouth just doesn't look quite right, but we'll see what happens. Okay, let's see how it prints. And for this first print, I'm going to do something that's not like a, what am I trying to say? I can't even think right now. I'm not going to do a solvent ink. I'm going to do something that cleans up a lot easier, so that way it doesn't stain the stamp really bad. So maybe I'll just do like, that's too light. Maybe I'll just do a red. I don't know how that looks. Yeah, I think that'll be good. This is just a cheap little ink pad. If I'm doing something that I want to stay, there's a really good ink pad that you can use called Stays On. And they look like this, and it's a solvent ink, and you can print on pretty much anything. It says glass, ceramic, laminate, coated paper, leather, plastic, metal. I make stickers with this, so like I've got my artificial stamp, and I'll use this and make stickers with all different colors, so that's kind of cool. You can print right on that adhesive vinyl or contact paper or anything like that, and it will stay, and which is cool because that doesn't work with most inks. But for something like this, I'm just going to use like an ink that will wash really easily. So let's see what we get. Get a piece of paper here. Make sure there's no extra crumbs on it or anything. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit of lining over here. I don't know what that's actually called, those lines that you don't want, but I can see there's a little bit in some places that I might need to trim off. So let's see how it prints. If you're wondering too, I don't know how I got that cut. It feels kind of like a paper cut, but it wasn't from carving, I'll tell you that. I would have known that. That's alright. It's not bad. I think if I clean it up a little bit, I think it'll be pretty good. That's not bad. So anyway, I just need to clean up these lines a little bit around the letters, and I think it'll be pretty good. I don't know, sometimes with like the little tiny details, like the face and that kind of stuff, it's almost better just to like leave it alone than trying to keep messing with it, because at least for me, because otherwise I just end up screwing it up worse. So I turned something that was pretty good into something that like I have to redo. And when you're doing something like this that takes a couple hours and it's so small, it's just like you really don't want to go back and redo it. As much fun as it is doing it the first time, I think anyway. I like doing this, but like I wouldn't want to redo it because of a stupid mistake. So I'll just go back in here, clean up the little spots that need a little bit more attention, and I'll call that good. Okay. When you look at the print, right above the L and the M, so right up here, I had some lining too, which you can see if I get real close here. You can see how I didn't cut that very well. So I'm going to go up here and chop it off. Chop. Chop. And I'll do this one too for good measure. Why not? There we go. See if that fixed anything. I'll do another print here real quick. Okay. Oh, I smudged it. Whoops. Try one more time. That's not good. I wondered about that. Kind of moved it a little bit. Okay, let's try again. Don't move it this time. There we go. I think that looks better than the first time. You see there's a little bit on the bottom of the S that I need to clean up, and then maybe a little bit right in here by the K and that heart. Other than that though, I think it looks pretty decent. Not too shabby. So yeah, that's it. And then here, I'm gonna go and clean this up while I'm thinking of it, so that way I don't forget. There's that, and then clean that up. Come on. These are the things that I find the most annoying, like the little pieces that don't cut out the first time because I didn't get it quite right. They're the hardest to get out. I don't know why. Yeah. There. Okay. Maybe I'll cut this out too. Okay. So the last thing, I guess, that I'll show you too is cleaning it up. Probably one of the safer ways. There's different things you can do to clean it. I got a bunch of stamp making, or not stamp making, but stamping stuff from a friend. One of the custodians at my building, she makes cards and they're like really amazing. So she had tons of stamp stuff that she gave me, and with it was this thing here. It's a stamp cleaning pad. Wet one end with water, leave the other one dry. So that's one way that you can do it. And I guess the good thing about that is there's no solvents or anything that you have to worry about. But it only works with water-based ink, so with this ink it'll work great. So I rub it here on the wet side and dry it off over here. And this just feels like Velcro. That's what it looks like the softer side of the Velcro. I don't know if that's what it is, but that's what it looks like. Okay. And you can see it kind of cleans it. There's old ink in there that kind of gets on there, but it cleans off most of it. You can use also a baby wipe. Does a really good job. You want to be careful rubbing it too hard. But if you're kind of gentle with it, a baby wipe usually does a pretty good job. And there you go. If you're really bothered by that stuff, I've heard some people get like a toothbrush or something like that and they'll clean it out that way. I don't, but just as long as the top surface is cleaned off, that's the main thing that you really need to worry about. But yeah, so there you go. And then the only other thing that I usually do is for people that want it, I'll just take, let me find one. I got one here. So like this one, this dolly stamp, usually I'll just take a wood block, cut it down to the size of the stamp so that there's a handle, and then I print it on the back side, put my logo on one side, and then I polyurethane over it, and sand it down so it's got a nice finish too. So anyway, that's how I do it, pretty much start to finish, minus this last little part. But that's it. That's all there is to it. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, I guess. I don't really care. If you don't like it, that's fine too, whatever. Let me know if you watched it. Even if you didn't watch it all the way until the end, I wouldn't blame you. I don't think I would want to sit through 2 hours or whatever of this. But you know what? Maybe it'll help somebody. So that's it. Okay? Happy carving.